Every problem in life seems to arrive with a voice. Sometimes it is loud, sometimes it whispers. But it always carries noise with it. The moment something goes wrong, the air changes, words begin to gather, opinions rise, explanations rush forward before understanding has even had time to breathe. They speak quickly, they react quickly, they decide quickly. And in that rush, something inside you begins to tighten. Have you noticed it? That small shift in your chest, the quiet pressure behind your eyes, the feeling that you must say something, do something, respond before the moment escapes you. It feels urgent, it feels necessary, but is it? Problems have a strange way of pulling people into motion. They stir emotions like wind stirs dust from the ground. Suddenly everything feels unclear. The smallest issue becomes heavy. The simplest misunderstanding becomes a storm. They add their voices to it. They interpret, they assume, they fill the silence with their own meaning. And slowly, the noise grows louder than the problem itself. But beneath that noise, there is something else. There is a quiet space that most people never enter. A still place that does not rush. A place that watches instead of reacting. It waits. Yet when tension rises, few people choose to wait. The mind begins searching for defense. The heart searches for validation. Words gather at the edge of the tongue, ready to prove innocence, to explain intentions, to protect dignity. It feels almost painful not to speak. Why does silence feel so uncomfortable in those moments? Perhaps because silence forces us to sit with uncertainty. And uncertainty feels unsafe. When they misunderstand you, it feels like a threat. When they question you, it feels like an attack, and so the instinct awakens to correct, to clarify, to respond. But sometimes the real disturbance is not the problem at all. It is the fear of being seen incorrectly. It is the discomfort of not being understood immediately, and in that discomfort, people often give away their peace. They trade their calm for temporary relief. They speak quickly just to quiet the noise, not realizing they are feeding it. Have you ever watched how a small spark becomes a fire? One word leads to another. One reaction invites a stronger reaction. Voices rise, hearts close. And what began as something simple becomes tangled in emotion. All because no one paused. All because no one allowed silence to stand between the problem and the response. Silence feels empty at first, almost awkward. It stretches across the space like a question with no answer. But maybe it is not empty at all. Maybe it is protective. When you do not rush to defend yourself, you begin to see more clearly. You notice the tone behind their words. You sense the emotion beneath their reaction. You understand that sometimes they are not reacting to you, but to their own fears, their own wounds. And if you are quiet enough, you can see this. The noise of a problem often hides its true shape. It disguises itself as urgency. It demands immediate attention. It insists that something must be done right now. But wisdom does not hurry. Wisdom listens. Wisdom observes. Wisdom waits for the dust to settle before deciding where to step. There is a quiet strength in not joining the noise, a steady presence in choosing not to add another voice to the storm. At first, it may feel like you are losing ground, like you are allowing misunderstanding to stand unchallenged. But sometimes silence is not surrender. Sometimes it is control. The world often believes that power is loud, that strength must be seen and heard, that the one who speaks the most wins, yet there is another kind of power, one that does not rush, one that does not tremble when misunderstood, one that remains still while others move in circles. It is easy to speak when emotions are high. It is rare to remain quiet. And in that quiet, something important begins to unfold, not outside you, but within. There is a particular kind of ache that comes when you are misunderstood. It is not loud. It does not shout. It sits quietly inside the chest, heavy and warm, like a stone resting where your breath should be. They look at you, but they do not see you. They hear your words, but they do not hear your heart. And in that moment, something inside begins to tremble. You want to explain, you want to correct the picture they have painted of you. You want to reach into their thoughts and gently rearrange them so they can finally understand. Is that not natural? To want to be seen clearly? To want your silence to be interpreted correctly? But the more they misunderstand, the stronger the urge becomes. It rises from deep within, almost like a reflex. Your mind gathers arguments. Your heart gathers emotion. You begin rehearsing sentences that could fix everything. If only they knew the full story. If only they could feel what you felt. If only they would pause long enough to listen. Yet sometimes they do not pause. They decide quickly. They label quickly. They move on with their own version of the truth. And you are left standing in the quiet, holding words that have nowhere to go. This is where the real struggle begins. Not with them, but within you. You stand at a crossroads. One path leads to reaction, to speaking quickly, defending yourself, proving your point. The other path leads to restraint, to holding your words, to allowing the misunderstanding to exist without chasing it. The first path feels powerful in the moment. It promises relief. It promises justice. The second path feels heavier. It asks for patience. It asks for trust. It asks you to endure the discomfort of being seen incorrectly, and that discomfort can feel almost unbearable. Why should you stay silent when you know the truth? Why should you carry their misunderstanding on your shoulders? It feels unfair, but look closer. What truly hurts in these moments? Is it their words, or the wound to your pride? Is it the problem, or the feeling of losing control over how you are perceived? When they misunderstand you, something deeper is touched. The part of you that wants respect, the part of you that wants acknowledgement, the part of you that quietly hopes to be valued. And when that hope feels threatened, the heart reacts. Silence then becomes difficult, because silence feels like allowing the wrong story to stand. It feels like surrender. Yet sometimes, silence is not surrender at all. It is self-mastery. It is the quiet decision to protect or peace rather than protect your image. When you do not rush to defend yourself, you begin to notice something unexpected. The storm inside you slowly reveals itself. Beneath the anger is hurt. Beneath the hurt is fear. Beneath the fear is a simple longing to be understood. And when you see this clearly, something softens. You realize that their misunderstanding does not define you. It only reflects their perspective. It says more about their lens than about your truth. Still, the urge to react lingers. It whispers, say something, correct them. Do not let this stand, and you sit there, breathing slowly, feeling the weight of that whisper. This is the quiet battlefield of emotional discipline, not a battle against them, a battle within yourself, to speak or not to speak, to react or to remain steady. In these moments, strength is not loud, it is not dramatic. It is simply the ability to sit with discomfort without allowing it to control you. You feel the heat of emotion, yet you do not let it spill into words. You feel the sting of being misjudged, yet you do not chase approval. And slowly, something changes. The trembling inside begins to settle. The stone in your chest feels lighter. The urgency fades. You begin to see that your worth was never dependent on their understanding. And in that realization, a quiet dignity emerges. They may never fully see your intentions. They may never correct their assumptions. But you no longer feel the same desperation to make them, because you have discovered something deeper than being understood. You have discovered the quiet strength of holding yourself together, even when they cannot see who you truly are. There comes a quiet moment, almost unnoticed, when something inside you shifts. The urge to react is still there, but it no longer controls you. It sits at a distance now, like a voice echoing from far away. You can hear it, but you do not have to follow it. And in that space, you begin to understand something simple yet powerful. Not every problem needs your response. Some problems feed on reaction. They grow stronger with every word you offer. They expand with every defense you build. The more energy you give them, the more alive they become. Have you ever seen how a flame behaves when there is no air? It slowly weakens, it softens, it fades. In the same way, certain tensions begin to lose their force when they are not met with resistance. When you do not push back, they have nothing to push against. At first, this feels unnatural. Everything in you was taught that strength must answer, that dignity must defend itself, that silence means losing. But is that always true? Look closely. When you react quickly, what happens inside you? Your breath shortens, your thoughts scatter, your heart beats faster. Even if your words are calm, something within is unsettled. But when you remain still, when you choose not to answer every provocation, something steadier begins to form. You feel your breath slow down. You feel your thoughts clear. You feel a quiet boundary rising within you. This boundary does not shout. It does not demand respect. It simply exists, and they may not understand it. They may look at your silence and see weakness. They may interpret your calm as indifference. They may believe you have nothing to say, but they cannot see what is happening inside you. They cannot see the discipline it takes to hold your tongue when your emotions want to speak. They cannot see the strength it takes to choose peace over pride. There is a kind of power that does not need to prove itself. It does not chase validation. It does not argue for recognition. It does not rush to correct every misunderstanding. It knows its own shape. And when you begin to live from this place, something changes in the way you experience problems. You start to ask different questions. Instead of asking, "How do I win this?" you quietly wonder, "Is this worth my energy?" Instead of thinking, "How do I make them see?" you reflect, "Do I need them to?" These questions do not come from weakness. They come from clarity. Because when you know who you are, misunderstanding becomes less threatening. It becomes uncomfortable, yes, but not destructive. You realize that reacting to every challenge ties your peace to the behavior of others. It makes your calm dependent on their words, and that is a fragile way to live. But when you choose silence with intention, when you withhold reaction not out of fear, but out of awareness, you reclaim something important. You reclaim your center. Silence becomes more than the absence of speech. It becomes a statement, not spoken aloud, but deeply felt. It says, "I will not let this disturb my inner ground." And over time, this quiet choice builds something solid within you, emotional discipline. It is not coldness. It is not detachment. It is not pretending not to care. It is caring deeply, but refusing to let that care turn into chaos. They may continue to speak. They may continue to misunderstand. They may continue to test your silence. But each time you remain steady, you strengthen something invisible yet unshakable. Your self-respect, because self-respect is not proven through argument. It is revealed through restraint. It is the calm decision not to lower yourself into noise. It is the quiet awareness that not every battle deserves your voice. And slowly, without announcement, you begin to feel different, more grounded, less reactive, less pulled by every emotional current. The problems that once felt overwhelming now seem smaller. Not because they disappeared, but because you no longer feed them with your energy. And in that realization, you discover a power they cannot see, a power that does not need to be seen, a power that rests quietly within you, steady, calm, and deeply your own. After a while, something unexpected begins to happen. The problems do not disappear all at once. They still arrive. They still carry their noise. They still try to pull you into their rhythm. But you are no longer standing where you once stood. There is a small distance now between you and the storm. You notice it in simple moments. A word that once would have unsettled you now passes through without leaving a mark. A misunderstanding that once would have kept you awake now feels lighter, almost temporary. What changed? The world did not become quieter. They did not suddenly become more understanding. The difference is within you. When you stopped answering every provocation, you stopped feeding the cycle. When you allowed silence to stand where reaction once lived, the tension began to lose its grip. It is a quiet kind of victory, not the kind that a noun sees itself, not the kind that seeks applause. It feels more like relief, like setting down a heavy weight you did not realize you were carrying. For so long you believed that every problem required action, that every challenge demanded your defense, that dignity had to be guarded with words. But now you see something simpler. Some problems only wanted your reaction, and when they did not receive it, they slowly faded on their own. There is peace in that understanding, a soft, steady peace. It does not mean you never speak. It does not mean you accept injustice or silence your truth forever. It simply means you choose your moments carefully. You no longer speak from wounded pride. You no longer react from sudden emotion. You wait, and in that waiting, clarity appears. You begin to sense which situations deserve your energy and which ones do not. You begin to trust your inner stillness more than the outer noise. Have you noticed how calm feels different now? It is not forced. It is not something you are trying to maintain. It rests naturally within you like a quiet lake untouched by wind. They may still test you. They may still misunderstand. But your response is no longer immediate. It is thoughtful, measured. Sometimes it is nothing at all, and nothing can be powerful, because in that nothing, you protect your peace. You protect your self-respect. You protect the quiet authority that has grown inside you. There is strength in knowing that you do not need to win every argument to remain whole. There is dignity in allowing others to hold their opinions without feeling the need to change them. You realize that your value was never in their agreement, and it was in your steadiness. And so the problems begin to look different. They are no longer enemies to defeat. They are moments to observe. Some pass quickly, some linger for a while, but none of them define you. You remain calm, present, unshaken. There is a softness in this way of living, a gentleness toward yourself. You no longer blame yourself for being misunderstood. You no longer carry the burden of correcting every false impression. You let some things go, and in letting go, you feel lighter. The noise that once filled your mind grows distant. The urge to prove yourself grows quiet. In its place is a simple awareness. You are enough without explanation. You are steady without reaction. You are strong without raising your voice. And as the night grows still, you can almost feel the truth settling inside you. The simplest solution was never louder words. It was never sharper arguments. It was never winning. It was this: a quiet heart, a disciplined mind, a silence chosen not from fear, but from understanding. And in that silence you find something deeper than resolution. You find peace, not the fragile kind that depends on others, but the kind that lives gently within you and stays